Welcome to SVG-TV's news for Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. Tour General of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, the OECS, Dr. Didicus Jules, is urging small island developing states, or SIDS, to strike a balance between the opportunities and the risk presented by cruise tourism. Dr. Jules, who attended the recently concluded 8th Council of Ministers of Tourism meeting held in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, stated that while cruise tourism is economically vibrant, it must also be managed in an environmentally and socially responsible manner, particularly when making port calls.
On the one hand, they bring thousands of visitors to our shores, providing a much-needed boost to visitor arrivals. But that is visitor arrivals, that's statistics. But our visitor arrivals are only one side of the equation. Is the increase in arrivals resulting in commensurate increase in average visitor spend? On the risk side, they propose significant challenges. Environmental impact. The large-scale waste and pollution generated by these ships strain our marine ecosystems. Coral reefs, which are already under threat, face additional pressures from anchoring and increased marine traffic. I have noticed in a couple of the member states when several of these ships are in port, because of the inadequacy of some of the harbors meant to contain all of them, they now anchor in pristine areas of the coast.
Dr. Jules further emphasized that as the cruise tourism continues to grow, it is vital for the island nations to integrate sustainable practices into the tourism sector to preserve the natural beauty and resources that attract visitors in the first place. He also called for development of the OECS Climate Change Action Plan for Tourism to incorporate strategies ensuring that ports are not merely seen as stops for cruise ships, but as destinations where tourists spend time and money on the islands.
Then there's the issue of economic leakage. Perhaps most concerning is the fact that much of the revenue generated by cruise tourism does not remain in the region. Passengers often spend minimal amounts locally, while the bulk of profits are retained by the cruise lines. And I have been on cruises in the region. I can tell you that as a passenger, what you are offered as onshore experiences, the cost of that is a huge multiplier on what the local tour operators are receiving. Now, I'm saying all of this, let's be clear, not to criticize cruise tourism, but to say that the scale and volume that this thing is developing right now, if we do not take some very clear strategic positions, we will lose control of that industry and we'll just be bus stops or sea stops along the way for the cheapest visitor experience, with us getting minimal returns.
The OECS Director General acknowledged the various challenges facing the tourism sector in the region, but expressed optimism about the future. He's confident that with targeted efforts, including initiatives that engage local stakeholders, these challenges can be overcome.
So we must strike a delicate balance between sustainability and expansion. This means implementing policies that encourage cruise operators to adopt greener practices. With the Ministers of Environment, we just had discussions on a ship-shore initiative that will have the cruise lines turn off their diesel engines while in port and switch to renewable sources or greener sources of energy, which would benefit our local economy, but also avoid the extra carbon generated by these ships. 3 of these cruise ships in our harbors in the smallest OECS territories put more carbon into our environment than the entire island does in 3 months. So adopting greener practices, more environmentally sustainable management of attractions, and investing in port infrastructure will help minimize environmental harm. Additionally, we must explore how to maximize the flow of tourism dollars to local communities. Initiatives like community-based tourism, which several of our member states are aggressively pushing now, and agri-tourism are excellent ventures for achieving this.
The OECS Climate Change Action Plan for Tourism, which focuses on integrating sustainable tourism practices across the region, was one of the key areas of focus at the 8th OECS Council of Ministers of Tourism meeting hosted in SVG last week. Leader of the opposition New Democratic Party, the NDP, Dr. Godwin Friday, is raising concerns about the ongoing port modernization project in capital Kingston. At a news conference today, Dr. Friday stated that although the opposition has expressed concerns in Parliament regarding the cost of the project and the apparent lack of transparency in its execution, they have still supported the initiative due to the need for a renovated port in the country. He mentioned that recently they have learned of issues surrounding the way in which the project has been carried out.
In my duty in the Parliament and to the people of this country in general, I have an obligation, we have a duty to be able to interrogate these matters when there are serious questions that are raised and when there are serious implications for the public purse, how much money that is costing for the delivery of a major project that we have embarked upon, and the implications for it going forward, given that they've had this problem with what I think the Prime Minister called decoupling of parts of the sheet panel. Now, this matter is a very serious matter. I am not satisfied that the government and the persons who are involved in the project have been completely transparent and upfront in bringing the seriousness to the public and explaining what exactly is at stake.
The opposition leader emphasized that the government and contractors have a responsibility to provide more clarity to the public about what has been happening with the project and the implementations moving forward. Meanwhile, opposition member of Parliament Daniel Cummins, who is also an engineer, said that some of the failures identified with the current port project raise several important questions.
Who is supervising the design and construction of the project? Who is overseeing the repairs of the massive failure? And who will give us as taxpayers the assurance that, one, the repairs will bring us a port that can be used, and two, we as taxpayers would not be paid footing the bill for the failure in both the design and implementation of the project. These are the questions we want answers to. Can anyone assure us, given what has happened, that this project is designed to the standards to meet the purpose for which we are spending almost $700 million?
Also at today's news conference, the NDP leader spoke about the new online program called Build SVG, which launched last evening. He explained that the purpose of the program is to highlight the numerous failures of the current administration, particularly in specific constituencies.
So yesterday, where I introduced the series and spoken particular issues like Otley Hall, the failure of the Otley Hall Marine and Shipyard, and the other issues. But members of my team, the parliamentarians and candidates, will also be addressing specific issues in their constituency. And it is important because it demonstrates a level of knowledge and intimacy and understanding of the constituencies by each of those members, and it gives the public, the voters, because this is an election year after all, an opportunity to be able to assess the level of preparedness which we have in our party, the high level of preparedness, I should say, and to get information to be able to make an informed decision when it comes to vote. I am not in any way afraid of the scrutiny of our plans, the interrogation of our candidates, because we want to be able to demonstrate, and we have done so over the years, to the general public, that we have a full understanding of the issues, that we are caring, that we understand what's happening in the constituencies, and the various candidates will demonstrate that as we go forward with this series. It will continue tonight and tomorrow and then into next week, and we will continue as we see it needed and beneficial in helping to inform the public in this election year.
The official viewing for the late Chief Allan Cruickshank will take place tomorrow, Thursday, April 3rd, from 9 a.m. at the House of Assembly in Kaliako. The viewing will begin with Her Excellency, the Governor General, from 9 a.m. to 9:15 a.m., followed by other officials, including the Prime Minister, the Speaker of the House of Assembly, the Leader of the Opposition, members of Parliament, former members of Parliament, the judiciary members of the Diplomatic Corps, and visiting dignitaries from 9:15 a.m. to 10 a.m. The general public will have the opportunity to view the body from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Cruickshank, who was a former member of Parliament for South Central Windward constituency, has been accorded an official funeral which will take place on Sunday, April 6, 2025 at the New Grounds Primary School Hardcourt starting at 1 p.m. The funeral service will be preceded by a viewing and tributes at the New Grounds Primary School Hardcourt from 12 noon to 1 p.m. The interment will take place at the Sanssouci Cemetery. At a news conference held by the NDP today, opposition and party leader Dr. Godwin Friday described Cruickshank as a stalwart of the party. He said the NDP will also honor him in a special way at the party's headquarters tomorrow. Cruickshank served in the NDP administration from 1984 to 2001.
The James Mitchell Auditorium, that's downstairs here, where we will pay tribute to our dear friend and colleague. And this is also open to all members of the public, and we hope to see many of our supporters come out to pay tribute to him. Of course, on Sunday, the funeral will be held at the New Grounds Primary School in New Grounds, and we will be there as well to pay tribute and also to say goodbye to a dear friend and to lend support in this difficult time to his family. The funeral would then take place at the Sanssouci Cemetery. This, again, I expect that many supporters of the New Democratic Party, community residents in the area, and just people who recognize and understand the importance of Allan Cruickshank, the role that he played in representing the constituency of South Central Windward and the country at large in the various positions he held in the New Democratic Party government. So we will be ensuring that he gets the due recognition that he is entitled.
Recently, the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force has increased its random stop and search operations on the roadways where many vehicles were found to be non-compliant with road safety requirements. Speaking on the matter, Acting Prime Minister Montgomery Daniel urged citizens to be patient when searches are conducted, explaining that many vehicles are failing inspections on the road.
Then the question is asked, if these vehicles are inspected and passed, on the stop and search actions by the police on the road, you are now questioning the owners, the road users, of things like your number plates, the size and shapes of the number plates, the lights, the tints, the music. Why is it, therefore, that this is a problem? The commissioner reflected that, Minister, at the time of inspection, all of these requirements are observed, and according to the requirements, they are all met.
However, Daniel acknowledged concerns regarding the vehicle inspection process. He mentioned that while vehicle inspections are carried out by the RSVG Police Force, it has been reported that some vehicles reportedly undergo changes after the inspection process.
But what happens after inspection and the vehicle is licensed? That a number of individuals immediately will go and change their number plates as to not what is required by law. The size, the shape, the way it is printed, making it difficult for the police to identify the numbers at night. The lights, he indicated, of course, that lights are changed at the time of inspection, which is creating difficulty for the police as well. When the vehicle is inspected for tint, the glasses are well down, they're screwed down, and therefore you do not identify the darkness of the tint that is on the vehicle. Or after the inspection, they would go and put on these tints and so on, and add extra music to the vehicle.
The Deputy Prime Minister further explained that he has questioned the police to conduct more educational awareness programs related to the stop and search operations and vehicle inspections to ensure that citizens are better informed. Meanwhile, Daniel announced that the vehicle plate numbering system is due for another change in series. He explained that this change is necessary due to the high influx of vehicles entering the country.
As you would realize, every month, of course, there is well over 100 vehicles coming into this country. And so the numbering series is about to be exhausted. And this is a matter to which the cabinet has to approve, and subsequently it goes to Parliament for parliamentary approval. And so the matter has been discussed at the board. The matter will now be sent on to the cabinet for approval, and then subsequently to the Parliament, so that in the very near future we can have the numbering series of vehicles being changed to accommodate all of the new entrants that will be coming on stream.
Disciplining a child does not always involve physical punishment, according to Child Protection Officer Shari Roberts, who shared her insights during the Police on the Beat program on NBC Radio. Roberts emphasized that there is a distinct difference between disciplining and abusing a child, and that physical punishment is not the only way to discipline a child effectively.
There's a difference between disciplining and abuse. As Ms. John would have highlighted, physical abuse is basically when you see marks on a child's skin. So if you decide to discipline your child, there should be no marks really and truly on the child's skin, because then it would be defined as abuse. So if you are spanking a child, then you have to ensure that you leave no marks on the child's skin. Then if you leave marks, it simply means that you're beating the child with aggression, and therefore the obvious signs will be there with the marks. So if you're spanking a child, or you don't even have to spank a child, you could reprimand a child by putting them on timeout, taking away their devices. Younger children, you could put them in a naughty corner, take away the things that they like to do. So older children, you could prohibit them from going to any football games. If they're into football, tennis, swimming, any extracurricular activities, you could ban them from that. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to spank a child.
Roberts also stressed the importance of maintaining open communication with children.
You have to have conversations with your children. So maybe before disciplining your child, you can sit him or her down and you say, this is the reason why you're being punished, or do you know why you're being punished? Or you ask the child what punishment you think you should get because you did X, Y, Z. And then you have to explain to them, it's not that I don't love you, I'm just trying to show you that if you do this, there are consequences to your action.
In addition, medical social worker Karen Johnson highlighted the significant impact that physical punishment and abuse can have on children's mental, physical, and emotional health.
The impact of child abuse on a child's mental health depends on the type of abuse, the intensity or severity of the abuse, the environment in which the child lives. When a child experiences abuse, they can develop what we call anxiety or depression. They may feel a sense of hopelessness, helplessness, or they might even feel worthless. They may have a deep sense of fear They may also encounter, they are at risk for developing abusing substance. We have what we call post-traumatic stress disorder, shortly known as PTSD. They can also develop post-traumatic stress disorder whenever they experience abuse. This is where the child might be like, might experience, he or she might like hyperventilate. They may have like flashbacks, like nightmares. They might like wet their bed. They will like have like a very low self-esteem. They may have like cognitive and developmental issues. They may experience what we call somatic symptoms. That is when the abuse is manifested physically. So they might experience like headache, digestion problems, even reproductive problems in their older years.
Both experts urge parents and caregivers to consider alternative methods of discipline that promote positive behavior and emotional well-being. Minister of National Mobilization, Honorable Kisa Peters, said World Autism Day, celebrated this year on April 2nd, is a day of commitment to do better while supporting caregivers and individuals with autism. Addressing a gathering at the Girl Guide headquarters in Level Gardens, Minister Peters said that in observing World Autism Day, we are reminded of the importance of fostering a society that is compassionate, inclusive, and supportive of all individuals.
This day serves as a moment for reflection on our collective responsibility to ensure that individuals with autism are granted the same fundamental rights and freedoms as every other member of society. It is an opportunity to raise awareness, promote understanding, and take deliberate steps toward building a world in which all individuals are respected and empowered to reach their full potential. This year's theme, Advancing Neurodiversity and the UN Sustainable Development Goals, highlights an essential connection between the principles of neurodiversity and the global sustainability efforts set forth by the United Nations. Neurodiversity, a concept that embraces the diversity of human minds, is not a challenge to be overcome, but a strength to be celebrated. When we understand, accept, and support neurodivergent individuals, we make significant strides towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. These efforts ensure that no one is left behind, and that each individual, regardless of their differences, is included in our collective process.
Minister Peters said for individuals with autism and their caregivers, achieving this vision is not always straightforward, noting that living with autism brings down its unique set of challenges, and for caregivers, these challenges can often feel overwhelming.
Children and adults with autism face a spectrum of difficulties, from communication barriers and sensory sensitivities to social isolation and difficulties in navigating daily routines. These struggles can make even the simplest of tasks more complex, and without the proper support and understanding, they can create an environment of uncertainty and frustration. For many caregivers, these daily challenges are compounded by a lack of resources, insufficient support systems, and societal misconceptions. The emotional toll is significant. Caregivers often find themselves sacrificing of their own well-being in order to provide the constant care and attention their loved ones require. There is a common struggle with isolation, as the unique needs of individuals with autism can make it difficult for caregivers to find spaces where they feel understood and supported. The lack of accessible information and tailored services also means that caregivers are often left to navigate these challenges on their own. That's why World Autism Awareness Day must not only serve as a day of reflection, but also a day of commitment, a commitment to do better, a commitment to support our caregivers and individuals with autism, to ensure that they have the tools, resources, and understanding needed to overcome the challenges they face.
The minister said the Ministry of National Mobilization remains steadfast in its dedication to providing support, and as a result, it is hosting a virtual session with a focus on empowering the caregivers who serve as the backbone of the autism community.
We understand that the journey of caring for someone with autism can sometimes be exhausting, emotionally taxing, and at times isolating. However, it is our hope that this session will provide caregivers with valuable tools to enhance their understanding of autism, offer practical strategies for managing daily challenges, and highlight the importance of self-care in their own lives. Today's session will provide an in-depth look at autism, exploring its various forms and characteristics. Practical communication strategies will be shared to improve interactions and strengthen connections with those on the spectrum. The importance of fostering inclusive educational settings and offering personalized support to students with autism will also be discussed. Lastly, there will be guidance on self-care for caregivers, focusing on maintaining mental well-being and offering strategies to cope with the emotional demands of caregiving. It is crucial that we recognize that autism is not a singular experience. It is a spectrum, meaning that the challenges and needs of those living with autism can vary greatly. What is true for one person may not be true for another. However, the one thing that all individuals with autism share is the need for a supportive environment, one that nurtures their strengths, accommodates their challenges, and allows them to participate fully in society.
World Autism Day was established by the United Nations General Assembly in 2007 and serves as a reminder of society's collective responsibility to ensure that individuals with autism are granted the same fundamental rights and freedoms as every other member of society. Last Thursday, March 27, 2025, vouchers were distributed to additional fisherfolk under the Direct Production Support Program launched in response to Hurricane Beryl 2024. A total of approximately $250,000 in vouchers were redeemable at Lully's Fishing Supplies, have been distributed to assist with the recovery efforts and support investments in essential fishing supplies. Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor, Subota Caesar, commended fisherfolk for their hard work and dedication to ensuring a steady supply of fresh fish. The minister also announced a $2.5 million government allocation to support the fishing community and encourage voucher recipients to use this opportunity to expand production, enhance food security, and improve their livelihoods.
I take this opportunity to thank the fisherfolk of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the excellent work that they continue to do. It's not an easy job to wake up in the morning at 4 o'clock, sometimes even 3, heading out on very rough seas to ensure that we have food and nutrition security in our country. We want to show you love, continue to show you the respect due to you. I know that there are hundreds of persons in the fisheries sector who are impacted by the recent hurricane. And we have done several donations from the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, also with the assistance of the FAO and AICA. I want to thank all the workers in the fisheries department, persons who went out in the immediate aftermath of the disaster and were able to do the assessments. And we are here now to hand over vouchers ranging from $1,000, $1,500, $2,500, and there will be other vouchers which will be distributed in the next 2 weeks. The government, we have assigned the sum of $2.5 million to assist the fisher folk of the country. Persons who are within the fishing community who are impacted have already received their income support cards valued at $1,800, and there will be another distribution of cards in approximately 2 weeks. I want the fisher folk to take this opportunity to expand their production. I know that there are some persons who have also benefited from the UBEC program. We have placed in the water already over 12 FADs, and this is going to have a positive impact on production and productivity from a fisheries standpoint in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
The St. Vincent and the Grenadines Environment Fund today announced the appointment of its new executive director, Stephen Hornacy. Stephen takes over the position from Louis Mitchell, who co-founded the organization back in 2015 with Brian Adams and Ben Goldsmith. In a news release, the fund says that after nearly a decade of dedicated service as executive director, Louis Mitchell will continue her involvement with the fund as she hands over to Stephen. Stephen has been a core member of the SVG-EF team for the past 3 years, gaining valuable experience. The release says, supported by the SVG-EF local team steering committee members and project partners, Stephen now leads the way in guiding work at the organization to protect the species and habitats of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is achieved by working closely with local communities as well as regional and international partnerships.